Okay, so welcome to the first module, and the first part of this module is called the appreciation practice. So we're going to go into that now, and I'd like to really start off with why appreciation? What is this about? Because we can't begin to appreciate who we are or what we bring unless we get into the beingness of appreciation. So this is about how to actually embody this energy of appreciation. And after all, appreciation is about how you feel and how you make others feel. So it's key to be in this state most of the time in our lives, to open up possibilities, to deepen relationships, and to just really deepen the meaning in our everyday lives. And I'd just like to read the chapter of Mark 12:31, which is, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And this is really probably one of the most essential passages or verses that I've come across that embodies what appreciation really is about and how to come about that in our daily lives. Moving on, why is it important for all areas of our lives? So when our hearts are open, we deepen our connection with who we really are, as well as with who others truly are. We begin to see others for who they are, because we're appreciating ourselves for who we are. So it does begin at home, and then moving out into the world with this energy, we can begin to just see the other for who they are. Through expressing this appreciation for each other, we deepen our relationships, improve our health, connect authentically with our career. I've seen I come across so many people who are desperately unhappy in their jobs. And it's just because they haven't sat back and thought about what they really want and really what they deserve as who they are. So this assists with that, as well as really attracting abundance into our lives. So how do we begin to attract this abundance? Through the energy of appreciation. That's the starting point. Okay, then moving on to the next topic. So what struggles are we facing? I don't know about you, but in this fast-paced world that we're living in, I've come across many who take things for granted. And I think our biggest struggle as a modern-day society is wanting things immediately and not really appreciating what we already have. So there's this lack of contentment. There's this never-ending hunger that is not based in anything real that would make us be better people. And so this attitude of appreciation can bring us to a state of centeredness, a state of peace that we're perhaps looking for, and really help us overcome this, take it for granted illness that we all suffer from at some stage in our lives. So then looking at the next thing, what is my personal experience of this? So just a little bit of sharing about that. I've often found myself in a space where life just overwhelms me, and I begin to regress into myself and sort of lose myself in myself, and I begin to get stuck, and I begin to now focus on the things that I don't have, and what I didn't get, and what I should have gotten, and this just puts me in a space of discontentment. It puts me in a space of unease and really unappreciation, if anything. And I've just found that the one of the best practices that has helped me is really to pause, take a deep breath, and look at this exercise that I'm going to share with you at the end of this module, which is around appreciation. So making an appreciation list of the things that I do have and I do appreciate, the things that matter to me most in my life. And so making this list just helps me come back to what really, really matters in my life. Losing perspective is so easy with us comparing ourselves to social media, to the stories that others share in social media. And so we begin to feel like we're less than, and we begin to go into the state of, I'm going to call it disappreciation. So I found that just subtly shifting my energy or focus into what I already have and really the wonderful things that are already around me helps so much. And it expands my awareness so much to really look at, what do I have and how lucky I really am. Okay, so what can you expect by the end of this module? You can expect by the end of this to look at having a mindfulness practice that you can do every single day, as well as tools that are supporting that mindfulness practice. Real practical tools that you can use to up the level of appreciation in your life. So this is not just about speaking about appreciation and remaining mindful of it. There's more to it, and I'll share those practical tools with you at the end of this module. But you can expect to get that. You can also expect to, by the end of this module, have a real hold on how to embody this energy of appreciation. And as I said, the practical tools to use and to practice every day with. The do's and the don'ts of this practice. So I'm going to share the do's and the don'ts with you now. Okay, firstly, when you do this practice, this appreciation practice, ask your closest friends or maybe some family members to be absolutely honest with you about what they appreciate about you. This is really so helpful to get a different perspective of someone that already knows you. We might know ourselves really well, but it helps just to get an external view. So I really recommend doing that. And then another do is, for your list and practice, choose somewhere you can feel calm, comfortable, and relaxed. This is so important for us to really deepen and sink into the state of appreciation, to begin to feel the energy of appreciation. We need a calm and comfortable space where we will not be disrupted. So please just think about where that space is for you now before we get to the practice. Another do is sit as still as possible with an upright posture when going through your practice. When our body moves, then our mind begins to move and we begin to get distracted. So how can you find a space where you can be able to sit as still as possible for, and we're talking about 5 to 10 minutes max here, so it's not a very long period of time. But where can you begin to sit very still in your practice? And we're going to get to just now. And then try your best to tune into your subtle sensations as you breathe through your heart center. So what I do recommend is that you focus on as if you were breathing through your heart area as opposed to through your mouth and nose. I know that sounds a little strange, but this is all based on neuroscientific research that they've been doing, based on the heart center expanding our awareness and bringing us literally to our center. I mean, think about it. The heart center is in the more or less the center of our bodies when we're sitting down. So this is why we try to breathe through our hearts and not through our heads. So it's really about getting out of the head and into the heart. And then a bit of the don'ts. So a couple of the don'ts are, don't worry if your in and out breath aren't exactly equal. Don't worry about that. Just rather relax and deeply appreciate the practice that you're doing. Another don't rush it. And I've said 5 to 10 minutes. If that feels like a rush to you, then please take your time. So this is around taking your time. This is your practice. Take ownership of that in your daily life. Another don't compare your experience with the expectations of what you think you should experience. So this is interesting. Our minds already paint a picture for us before we even go into the experience. That's okay. However, when you're sitting doing the practice, try to just be with the practice. Don't worry about whether you're feeling what you should have felt or whether you're not feeling what you should feel or whether you are feeling what you shouldn't feel. Just be with the practice. That's my greatest invitation to you, to make it really valuable for you. Okay, so those are the do's and the don'ts. Moving on to resilience. So what is resilience about? To remain appreciative, we must practice appreciation every day. And so to do this, I highly recommend, guys, that you look at and girls, guys and girls, that you recommend that you diarize it first thing in the morning every day. So put it in your calendar as if it was an important meeting of the day. Because it is. It's a meeting. It's the first meeting that you're having with yourself. It's your first check-in of the day. So diarize it and pop it in your calendar, please. Then just do it. So you've committed yourself, just do it. And again, try to do it at the same time every day. So when practicing, we try and do this practice at the same time every day to build rhythm. The rhythm is incredibly important to maintain balance and to also begin to train ourselves to make a habit of what we're doing so that it becomes part of our neurology. Okay, so the same time at every day would be highly recommended. If you can't crack that, it's not a train smash, just try to do it every day at the same time. And then you're busy creating a new habit. So if you wake up feeling a bit blah, then just nudge yourself to remember what you're going to feel like after doing the short practice. So in the days where we sort of are skipping and maybe waking up feeling a little nasty, can we begin to just think about how we're going to feel afterwards? And sometimes that's a motivator that we need. So instead of just giving up and not doing it, think about how you're going to feel after just a short 5 to 10 minute practice. Highly recommended. Have a think and just do it. Okay. And if you don't manage to do it and you manage to skip and you end up skipping a day, again, it doesn't help to berate ourselves. Just pick yourself up again the next day and do your practice. Or even if you have time on that day where you missed it, try to just nudge yourself into getting it done. Okay. I'm going to share a bit of a case study with you now, guys. So looking at a case study, when I think back to when I was still formally employed, I had so many reasons to be bitter with what I had and with what had and hadn't happened. What wasn't given to me, where I fell short, the real lack of relationship. And instead I consciously chose to acknowledge what was good and the lessons learned from the experience. So I consciously chose to bow out peacefully and not with bitterness. And that made all the difference to the step that I was taking out of formal employment and into really what I really wanted to do. I chose to focus on what was, how much I had grown, how I got back up every time I was knocked down, and how I did my best with what I had at the time, and how everyone who I was working with was actually also doing their best at the time. When I handed my resignation in, I remember that day. It really was one of the most liberating days of my life, in that I managed to summon up the courage and make a decision that, probably looking back, has been one of the most influential decisions of my life. It's given me the freedom to be who I really want to be and to do what I really love doing. I've moved from working with brands to working with people in their personal and professional capacities. And this is a real game changer for me. It's a shift from working on something that is, I'm going to say, not living, to working with human beings. And it's not that I wasn't working with human beings when I was building brands. However, now I'm managing to learn so much more with every coaching session I have one-on-one with a client about how people are, and that we share so many of the same fears and we share so many of the same joys. And I have learned so much about people, about the psychology of the human being, about where we get stuck and where we are too hard on ourselves and where we aren't hard enough on ourselves, or where we don't have a bit of enough discipline in our lives. So I resigned peacefully and I resigned purposefully. Of course I was fearful at the time, but I was more excited than I was nervous. And I just wanted to share this with you guys about being more excited than you are nervous when you're faced with a difficult challenge, or when you're about to do something that really scares you. Get more excited than you are nervous. I'm going to leave that nugget with you now. And another, just a bit of a sound bite to end this module off with is this. The attitude that transforms bitter into better is appreciation. So it's around what the attitude, it's about the attitude that we're embodying that would open up doors or close doors for us. And this is really around shifting what we are bitter about into something better. So if we're not doing anything about what we're bitter about, or expressing that to someone, we're likely to stay in bitterness. And so this thing of moving and doing something about what we're bitter about starts shifting us into a state of appreciation. Again, I'm appreciating that I'm growing. I'm appreciating that I'm stretching myself through this bettering of myself. So just looking at that as an ending to this module. Okay, so I hope you've printed your worksheets out from this part 1 of this module 1. Let's go through it carefully. So you'll see that there's a printed worksheet, and on your printed worksheet there's almost like a worksheet that you could fill out, and there's a slide that you can also work with, and this will be more so in the other parts of the modules as opposed to this module. So let's just look at this module's tool, the appreciation practice. So firstly, guys, the first part of the tool is what we call appreciation inquiry. And this inquiry is really around, ask 3 of your closest people, so the closest people to you, what characteristics they most admire about you. So we only want 3 of the closest people in your lives. This could be a combination of perhaps colleagues that know you really well, friends and family. And in fact, I'd actually recommend having 1 of each give you feedback. So 1 colleague, 1 friend, and 1 member of family to give you feedback on what they think are, again, the 3 most impactful characteristics that they appreciate about you. Okay? So you've got a space to fill that out. Make a call, ask them, get feedback from them. Right. Then the appreciation list. This is a list you can do every day. Again, make a list of the things you most appreciate, from small to great. So every day you could look at those characteristics that others appreciate about you, and make a list every day. And it could be, and try to make a different list every day about the things that you most appreciate, from small to great. Okay, then looking at, sorry guys, and this is really around making a list. It's one thing to have it in our heads, it's another thing to write it down. And when we see it on paper and we can read what we really appreciate right now, this is a real quick win to rising up our energy into appreciation. So I highly recommend doing that every day. Then there's a 5 to 10, guys. This is really around the mindfulness practice that we were talking about earlier, that I was mentioning the do's and don'ts about. And this appreciation practice, again, take 5 to 10 minutes. Remember, it's a calm space in which you're not going to be interrupted for at least 5 to 10 minutes. And it's important to be sitting quite still and focusing on your breath through your heart center, not your head. So imagine as if you were breathing through your heart, literally. Okay. So this is how it works. So if you're in your position now, and you're in a seated position, hold your hands in front of your heart center, in front of your chest, okay? Palms facing toward one another, but not touching. So we're not in a prayer position here. We're in a position similar to a prayer, but with palms parted, facing one another, but not touching. And feel the flow of your own life force energy. So just feel what happens when you hold your palms facing one another over time. Breathe smoothly and deeply through your heart center, trying for equal in and out breaths. 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out. Hold in your heart one of the appreciated characteristics that were shared with you by a loved one or by someone who appreciates you. And one thing from your appreciation list that you've hopefully just done. And as you breathe deeply into your heart center, feel what that feels like within each in and out breath. And again, guys and girls, once you've finished this, record your experience. So this now, in the worksheet, you've got a space in which you can just reflect a little on how it was for you. You don't have to. You might just have the experience, slowly get up and carry on with your day. Or you might look at the worksheet and just want to reflect and record some of that experience that you had. So guys, I just want to, looking at reverence, recognition and reward, I just want you to know that in spite of not knowing you, I deeply appreciate and love you as a human being, as someone who's probably struggling with a lot of what I struggle with, and who's also in delight of a lot of what I'm in delight with. So please put your hand on your heart, and with me, gently say, I am loved, I am love, and I love. So just gently maybe echo that to yourself now as you're listening to me talk. I am loved, I am love, I love. You've taken the time out of your busy day to appreciate yourself. And by doing so, you're far more likely to appreciate those around you and be grateful for what you do have in your life.